with the permission of the rabbis, Rabbi Adam, Rabbi Moshe, Rabbi Kohanim, Rabbi Levion, I guess, Rabbi Levion, all the other rabbis. I'm sure there's many more rabbis that I don't know that they have their smicha, but with all your permission, when we first started learning this Masechet about 2.5 years ago, I figured Masechet Rosh Hashanah, we're going to learn about how to make the best lubiyah, how the proper way to cut the zabun is, how do they make the kudu with the zafarun and all that delicious stuff. But as we started learning, I realized, nah, Baba, there's much more to this than just beans and zabun. We actually, what we had here was a law class. In the beginning, we learned that there's a Rosh Hashana for kings. The first of Nisan is the Rosh Hashana for kings. And why was that important? Is because all legal documents at the time had the date of the reign of the king on them. On the second year of so-and-so's reign, this document was formulated. And the most important implication of that was, let's say, with loan agreements or business documents. If you didn't date your loan agreement properly, or if you made a loan and it wasn't dated at the right time, the loan could become invalid. We also learned about witness tampering. Our resident attorney, Mr. Justin here, knows about witness tampering. If witnesses came to the Sanhedrin and they said, we saw the new moon, and the Sanhedrin decided, nah, Baba, we can't have Rosh Chodesh tonight, it's not a good time, we have to push it off till tomorrow because we don't want Shabbat and the Chag to fall together right behind each other. Can't do it right now. So they'd start witness tampering. Where did you see it? How did you see it? Was it up here? Was it on the left? How many drinks did you have last night? Are you sure you saw the moon? They'd make sure that if they didn't want it, they wouldn't admit the evidence. We also learned about history. It was a history class, Baruch Hashem. We learned about King Artashasta. We asked whether he was a Rasha or he was a righteous king. He allowed us to go back and rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, thank God, but he made one stipulation. You got to build it with wood inside. Why did he do that? So if we ever revolted, it would be easier to burn down. We also learned about how they would send messages from Yerushalayim all the way to Bavel. We'd light torches and go on top of the mountaintops, and from one city to the next, 10 cities, all the way to Pumbedita, I think it was called. We lit torches to send a message that Rosh Chodesh was tonight. We learned about astronomy, and as Rabbi Adam showed us with this beautiful contraption, it takes 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, 3 1/3 seconds for the moon. It takes that amount of time for the moon to go around the earth to make a full revolution. So we learned about astronomy. We learned about the molad. The molad is the point where the human eye cannot see the moon, where it becomes basically hidden. And we also learned that in Yerushalayim, the 24-hour period was usually 18 hours of the old moon, 6 hours of the new moon. But in Bavel, they had 6 hours of the old moon, 18 hours of the new moon. Very, very fascinating stuff. We learned about agriculture. How do vegetables and plants take root into the ground? Beans it takes them 2 years to take root. Within 2 years, different beans take root differently. But vegetables, right away, they take root. We learned about the new year of the trees, about Orla and Revi'it. If you planted your tree before the Rosh Hashanah of the trees, you could kind of get away with a shorter span time and appreciate your fruits sooner. If you did it after the Rosh Hashanah, you have to wait longer. We learned about comparative literature. It was a literature class we had. If a certain word appears the same time in 2 different contexts, what do we call it? A gezara shava. This was my expertise. Specifically, we learned about the word teruah. We heard about the word teruah when Hashem's commanding Moshe of the camps that have to travel. The first camp was the camp of Yehuda to the east, the first set of teruot. But we also learned it on the first day of the 7th month, you blow a teruah, signaling Rosh Hashanah. So we learned by comparing these 2 texts, when, how many times to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. And that's how we derive the laws of shofar. We learned about self-help and growth. How? In Teshuvah. We learned about the time period of Teshuvah, the gates of Teshuvah being open to us, what the requirements for proper, sincere teshuvah are. We learned about tefillah, the structure of tefillah, specifically on Rosh Hashana, the Musaf. How is our Rosh Hashana? It's the longest Musaf of the year. How is this prayer structured? We learned about Malchiot, Zichronot, Shofarot. Where do all these lines of this prayer come from? They come from the Tanakh, Torah, Ketuvim, Nevi'im. But the Nevi'im is before the Ketuvim because chronologically the Nevi'im before the Ketuvim. And so we learned about... Sorry. I'm getting there, Rabbi. I'm getting there. My first Siyum. Baruch Hashem, we learned a lot of things. And in closing, you might want to say, Chob, this guy's rambling on. What's the point of all this? Yes, we learned a lot of different topics. I think what really comes to light in my mind is that you see Hashem's hand in every part of our lives, whether it's in the courtroom, whether it's in the business negotiation, whether it's in your field sowing your plants, whether you're an astronomer, you're looking up at the skies. Hashem is present in every aspect of society in our lives. And this brings us closer to our love of Hashem. By learning these things, you think you're just learning about some halachot of, what kind of bracha you have to say, which hand you have to wash first, and little minutiae detail, but in reality, there's so much more to learn. And God is behind all of this knowledge and all of this learning, and it really deepens your appreciation of Gemara and Torah in general, that there's so much wisdom out there, and it's all from Hashem. And I'm glad, and I'm very appreciative, Rabbi Adam, that you're such a good teacher. For someone that's never learned Gemara and someone that's an expert on Gemara, you can teach it in such a way that it's interesting to all of us. And I'm looking forward to the next many, many more years with you learning and building our Torah. Thank you.